Hi, this is Cole Hamels. Welcome to the Philly Show.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Philly Show with Ruben Amaro Jr., Jim Salisbury, Todd Zolecki. It is the morning after Game 1 of the 2024 NLDS. Are you prepared to get depressed?
The morning disaster.
Are you prepared to be depressed? We'll try to. That's a great way to put it, Jim. Oh boy.
I think we all had some. I mean, I think everybody who's watched this season develop, both here in Philadelphia and with the Mets, has had some trepidation going into this series. And after Game 1, if you're a little anxious about this series, how do you feel now?
We're all watching that game yesterday, and as game's going on, I'm like, man, Wheeler is unbelievable. But man, they're going to need another run. Man, they're going to need another run. Man, they're going to need another run.
Yeah. Hey, I listen, when he hit that home run, I actually thought to myself, this is kind of strange. They may not get another hit, and they almost didn't.
Yeah.
They almost did not. What did they get, 5 hits?
Yeah, 5 hits, and 4 of them were all in the 8th inning or later.
Yeah. I mean, I don't get it. Well, I guess I do, because here's my sort of my summation of it. They have really, really dangerous. The Phillies have very dangerous hitters. They don't have great hitters.
Right.
Bryce Harper might be the only great hitter. They don't have guys who grind out at bats. There's no grinders in their entire lineup. They can do damage. Each one of them can hit a home run. Each one of them can hit a double. Each one of them can drive the ball. But they don't grind out at bats. They don't have a Gene Segura type, a Placido Polanco type. They don't have that guy in the lineup that will grind out in the bats. They have slashers and hackers. Mm-hmm. And, when you swing a lot and you swing out of the zone a lot, you can really be exploited. And that's what we've seen in the second half of the season. It's what we saw last year in the playoffs. It's what we're seeing right now. And hopefully they can figure out and make adjustments. They know it. They know that they're swinging out of the zone, and they're not having a whole lot of success with it.
So this season, the Phillies chase rate, that's pitches that they swing at out of the strike zone, out of the game day strike zone, was 30.3%. And last year, games 3 through 7 of the NLCS, that was the disaster stretch. It was 36%. And if I did the search correctly on Baseball Savant this morning, they were at 33% yesterday in Game 1. So right in the middle of horrific NLCS finish to their season average, which is just a tick over 30%. So,
and let's not forget, the Mets were flailing at Zack Wheeler through 7 innings. They had 30 swing and misses.
Unbelievable.
Against Zack Wheeler. It's just that, sometimes in any sporting event, any game at the professional level, there's that one window where a team wins the game and a team loses the game. And the Mets went out and won it with an inning that the Phillies are incapable of having. They had walks, they had sacrifice flies, they had 5 singles. They didn't have to hit the ball over the wall to rally. They had tremendous grinding at bats. 5 of their guys were 0-2, and they either produced a hit, a walk, or a sacrifice fly. The Phillies couldn't put them away. So, and after the game, I poked my head into the interview room and listened to Nimmo and Vientos talk, and they both talked about, you don't have to swing big, just, make something small happen, put the bat on the ball, hand the baton off, grind the at bat. And their manager, Carlos Mendoza, talked about the same thing, said they've been doing that all year. And I just don't think the Phillies, they can do it at times, but they don't do it consistently. And it was glaring to watch the Mets have an inning like that and just say to yourself, this Phillies team's incapable of having that inning. And that's what cost them last year in the postseason. It's what cost them at times this season when they'd have those long offensive shutdowns. And it's what cost them in Game 1 here. They were incapable of putting together any type of offense other than other than Schwarber's bomb in the first inning, that was electrifying and exciting. But that was about all there was, other than Zack Wheeler, to cheer about. They get a leadoff walk in the 5th inning. Boom, boom, boom. Top of the order goes out 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
Jim, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, Jim, you mentioned what the Mets were saying in the interview room, and then Harper postgame was asked about what happened, and the quote was, "It's the same thing, man. Chasing balls in the dirt, didn't work deep into counts like we should have. We've got to understand what they're going to try to do to us, and flip the switch as an offense immediately." And then he was asked, Matt Gelb asked him, what do you think the Mets are trying to do to you? Well, they're going to try to bury stuff and try to get us as chase as much as possible. And they all talked about it after the game. Bryce, Trey Turner, Nick Castellanos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why would you throw Harper a strike? I mean, they're not getting much. He's not getting much protection when you got Castellanos behind him. Very prone to chase, middle of the order, not making much contact ahead of Harper with Turner. Really prone to chase, had one of those games. So it's like, it's a real handicap in that lineup when they're not, having the type of games they're capable of, but they're very easy to pitch to and be exploited.
Yeah, nothing becomes more glaring about how you're supposed to play fundamental baseball than in the playoffs. Okay, the things that you need to do and have to do to be successful in the playoffs. I watched the Baltimore-Kansas City series. They tried to bunt. They got big base hits. They pitched. They played unbelievable defense. All the things that are necessary to do in baseball, the fundamental things to do, making contact, having quality at bats, throwing strikes, all the things that you need to do to have success, those are fundamental, basic things that have to happen in the game. They are no longer taught all that much, but the Mets are doing it, and they have been doing it for a while now. They've been doing it from the time they became accountable to each other from May 29th on, when they had that big meeting. And so they've committed to doing that. Now, the Phillies have out-talented teams for a long, long time. They've out-talented them because they're really, really talented, but they haven't out-baseball teams. And that's what you need to do in the playoffs. The Mets had 8 singles. That's it. 8 singles. Single counts, guys.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a homer. It doesn't have to be a slug. For the Phillies, it sort of does, because they don't string those singles together, like Jim said. And they feast on mistakes by the pitchers. And when you're executing and you have a game plan and you're in the playoffs, and the hitters aren't making the adjustment to do that, then you're in trouble in the playoffs. And it's not really just the situation where you're chasing like the 2-strike pitch. It's chasing the 1-0 pitch. It's chasing the 2-0 pitch. It's chasing the 2-1 pitch that's out of the zone and not waiting for the pitch to be in the zone to drive, because they didn't even make good barrel contact yesterday. I don't know. They only hit like one ball over 100 miles an hour or two. And I think they were both. One was
Schwarber's home run obviously was crushed, and then they did not hit a ball over 95 miles an hour until the 8th inning. I think it was maybe did Castellanos have a single in the 8th? I think that might have been the next one.
So that Harper hit a ball down the right field line. That
was actually just under 95. But my point being, though, that from Schwarber until the 8th inning, they did not hit a single ball hard. So you couldn't even use that like, we squared up a few balls hard. They just didn't fall in for hits. There was no solid contact. There was no barreling. There was nothing like that.
Yeah. Ruben, you mentioned the Mets been doing it for a while, and you mentioned the team meeting and the accountability to each other. It just one thing. It really strikes me, since these two teams saw each other in London, and since they departed London, the Mets are 26 games over 500, including last night's win. The Phillies are just 2 games over 500 in that span.
Yeah.
I think that's dramatic.
It's pretty significant. There's no question about it. And the only other thing I will talk about, or the one other thing I'll talk about, is the fact that the bullpen, you start talking about some of that time off. I think the bullpen really struggled with that, because these are guys in the bullpen, I think, need to throw a lot. They have to keep themselves fresh and to keep themselves sharp. I think that they really struggle when they don't pitch a lot. And it's been 5 days since they've competed, or 6 days since they've competed. And they got into a situation where they just couldn't make their pitches when they needed to make pitches. Strahm was over the plate far too much, which he does a lot, which is something that's a little dangerous. He doesn't expand the zone. And Hoffman expanded too much because he wasn't real sharp with his breaking stuff, and I wasn't able to command that stuff. So you have that combination, and you got to give the Mets credit; they took advantage of that.
That was almost the inning for me where I'm going, man, maybe the Mets are the team of destiny, because Jeff Hoffman and Matt Strahm pitch in the same inning, and neither of them can finish it. That's never happened. That's never happened.
Nope.
And what does that do for?
And they were all ahead They all got ahead. It's not like Hoffman he's down 3-0 and 3-1 and 2-1. He was down 0-1, or he was up 0-1, 0-2, 0-1. And then he kept hanging sliders, missing with his slider, and Strahm couldn't put anybody away. What
does that do for the Mets' confidence? They took it to the Phillies' two best relievers. That has to, their confidence was high coming in. That just has to take it to another level.
And they did it in different ways. So they got ahead in both those guys. Okay. And Lindor had a great at bat of staying in it. But some of those pitches, when he got to 0-2, were non-competitive pitches. I mean, not even close. Those are pitches that were balls out of the hand. He ticked the one, and I couldn't believe he even made contact with. That was going to bounce up there at about 50 feet. And he made contact with it. But the rest of those pitches in that at bat were not even competitive. Now, on the flip side, Strahm just kept pounding the zone and pounding the zone. He went 0-2 on Nimmo on two sliders and he made him look silly on a couple of sliders, the first one especially. And then he throws a fastball literally right down the middle of the plate. So they did it in different ways. And that's the kind of stuff that really can happen. And it also tells you that they weren't really sharp, or they weren't really, focused on what they needed to do.
So how about the way Nimmo just laid the bat out there? Just laid the bat out there and filleted it to left field. It's like, I'm not going to try to, hit a gapper here. I'm going to try to just make solid contact somewhere, and boom, right to left field.
And I don't know when the switch came, but when I was with those guys in 18 and 19, as a coach, their philosophy was totally different. That philosophy back then was lift and separate. Hit a ball out of the ballpark, swing out of your ass, and try to hit the ball out of the ballpark. It doesn't matter what count it is. Well, look how different this is. Look how different the approach is right now. And it's not necessarily about hitting the ball out of the ballpark. It's about putting it in play. I don't know what, it was a totally different hitting coach. And it was also a totally different regime and hitting philosophy. But look how much success they have doing this as opposed to what they were doing before.
Guys, several players mentioned the shadows. How much of a factor do you think that was?
Yeah, well, Nick Castellanos said he talked a little bit about it. And
so did Vientos. He mentioned
and here's a quote. I mean, so like when Castellanos started talking about it, I was like, oh boy, I can just see Phillies fans are going, oh, they're blaming the shadows. But I mean, Vientos mentioned it, right? And then JD Martinez, I use this quote in my story about Zack Wheeler. He said, in terms of his dominance, he said, you could see it, especially with the shadows early on. It's just like, dude, this guy's throwing paper airplanes up there, So it was definitely a factor. And one thing I did not know this, guys. You guys probably know this. The shadows apparently are the worst when the pitcher is completely in shadows and the background, the hitting background is completely bright. Yeah.
The background's ablaze. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Exactly. So, I mean, I did not know that.
Oh yeah.
So my thing is, okay, the shadows are going to be the same today. I think it's supposed to be nice in game 2. It's supposed to be sunny in game 2. So now you're the Phillies. You didn't have great at-bats yesterday. Trey Turner spent a half hour after the game in the batting cage looking over his at-bats, and everybody's frustrated, and you've been asked a million questions about Chase, and you're going, oh, my gosh, the first 7 innings, it's going to be more of the same. How are we going to put together good at bats?
Guys, let me just say something to you, okay? I have been in the shadows when I played against Pedro Martinez one time in the shadows. It was a nightmare. Honestly, it was really difficult.
I bet.
Because basically what you're seeing is a sphere and you don't really see spin. You don't really see the baseball. You just see a sort of a gray sphere. And so it's difficult to make the adjustments, obviously. Here's what I don't understand. In today's day and age where they have amazing technology, they have glasses, they have sunglasses. I would at times wear sunglasses and I could see the ball a little bit better. I don't understand. If you look at the game, there was one player who wore glasses to hit. Guess what his name was? Kyle Schwarber. So I got to believe that you have to either put glasses on. I know it's uncomfortable. You have to make some sort of adjustment, drastic measures. I mean, drastic times, drastic measures. If you can't see the baseball, then put some sunglasses on. There's so many different polarizations of the Oakleys and all these other gargoyles and whatever. I don't even know what the names of the glasses are, but they have different shades to help like brighten up the ball or see the ball differently. I would absolutely unequivocally try anything I possibly could. What do you have to lose? Right. I mean, if you can't see the baseball and you're not going to make contact, then try something different. And so, I mean, Kyle Schwarber had glasses on. He had a home run in his first at bat, and I know it was a fastball right down the middle, and he was lucky he got it. But he also got a base hitter, later on. I mean, why not give it a shot? I mean, there's a reason why the guy's got glasses on, I got to believe. And so maybe he sees the ball a little bit better. Just a thought.
Yeah, it's a good thought. I just feel like this team has a lot weighing on its mind, on its shoulders from the star power and the nucleus and the big payroll and the last two postseasons and the expectations, and they got to do it now, and it's World Series or bust. And now all of a sudden, the chase and the swing and miss rears its head, and the offense goes cold, and that's just another thing weighing on their mind. And oh, by the way, the shadows. It's just. You got to be so focused to hit. And I just wonder if this team has a million things turning in its head. And that just, makes it very difficult to perform at your best.
Maybe they're pushing. Maybe it's weighing on them. That said, not only that, but now they have this, they're basically their season riding on this young man, Christopher Sanchez's shoulders, which was my concern from the very beginning, that if they lost the first game, that it's not going to be Nola, that it's going to be Sanchez. And listen, I hope to God that for the Phillies' sake, and for me as a fan, that this kid performs. And I know that Topper has a tremendous amount of confidence in this kid, and he's come a long, long way. But this is a huge, huge game. I mean, this is not. This young man will never, unless he pitches the seventh game of a World Series or of a NLDS or whatever the case may be, he may not pitch the biggest game, a bigger game in his career. And I really hope he steps forward. He's matured in an amazing way. I love him. I love everything about him. I love what's happened to his career. But boy, he's got a whole city resting on his shoulders right now, and he's going to have to feel it a little bit.
Ruben, I wanted to ask you, what type of pressure does this ball club feel? I mean, you're a Philadelphian who played for the team, worked for the team. The pressure has to be enormous after, the team has played they've lost the game one of a postseason series 7 times, and all of those times they've gone on to lose the series. The pressure, what do you think they're feeling?
They got to be feeling it. I mean, because they know that they have one goal, and that's to win the World Series. And right now, they're in trouble getting knocked out. Listen, we lived it in 10 and 11. Yeah. In 10 and 11 and 9. You know what? For us to get back and to play the Yankees in the World Series, that's pretty much that's a win. Obviously, not where you wanted to end up, but in 10 and 11, I mean, it was very clear that those teams. They were better teams. They were more talented teams. They just couldn't get past for the same sort of reason. They were exploited and couldn't get past, their respective teams when they were in the playoffs. So, there's pressure, man. There's a ton of pressure. I was feeling the pressure in the booth. I will tell you that. And right now there's going to be some serious pressure on these guys. And hopefully they can somehow relax enough to be able to get to Severino today.
And how about 4 hours of hell just not quite seeming like 4 hours of hell anymore? They've lost now 3 straight postseason games at Citizens Bank Park, the place you could not come in and win because the fans were so suffocating, players would just crumble. But now the Diamondbacks did it, game 6 and 7. The Mets have done it in game 1. And I've mentioned this before, guys. When we had Jeff Francoeur on, he talked about game 6 and 7. You could tell the fans were tight. And if they get down early, and so if they get down early today,
they'll get tight.
That place is going to be quiet.
Yeah, it is.
That place is going to be quiet. So they need to get up early.
Tight is not good. Tight is not good. And you have that Mets team playing free and easy. Oof, I mean,
because now, right? If the Mets lose today, they still have home field advantage. I mean, not that they're going to go into this wanting to lose or anything like that, but man, they must be feeling great about their situation.
Guys, they're playing with house money right now. They're playing with house money. I mean, they came from way back. They played great baseball all year long. They played like a baseball team, a really good baseball team where no one's really stepped forward. Pete Alonso, other than Lindor, who had a phenomenal season. And he sort of backed up his words because he stunk in the first, few. I mean, when we saw him in the early part of the season, he was horrendous. And he sort of had that meeting, and I think maybe he did it to pump himself up because he's gone off since then. He has an MVP type year. So, but other than him, I mean, Vientos really stepped forward offensively, but there's nobody else who really stepped forward offensively. But they played well enough and pitched well enough to put themselves in this position. And like I said, man, they're playing free and easy and having fun and oh my God and all that BS. It's happening. It's happening and it's working, and they are playing confident baseball.
Teams, go ahead, Jim.
I think the Phillies need a pumpkin or something, or maybe I got some butternut squash in the garden. I could bring them a butternut squash.
Don't you have your poblano crop has failed us?
No, I could bring them some poblanos. I have a bumper crop of poblanos, so just breathe a little bit.
Start
hanging them in the dugout.
Yeah, they do need to loosen up a little bit because free and easy is way better, obviously. I mean, we talk about it all the time. I used to talk about it with Charlie Manuel. I used to talk about it with Joe Madden. You have to have fun when you're at the plate, and you have to enjoy yourself and have some rhythm and enjoyment.
As Chase Utley would say, get the rubber duck out of your ass. Right?
That's right.
Remember when then Charlie put those in the dugout before game 1 of the World Series in Tampa Bay?
They got like 30 rubber ducks, right?
Yeah, Bonnie Clark went and bought 30 rubber ducks and stuck them in everybody's locker because that was one of Chase's sayings in the dugout when guys weren't going well. Get the rubber duck out of your ass. So the Phillies absolutely need to do that because I will leave you this depressing number. In all best of 5 postseason series, the team that wins game 1 has won the series 109 out of 152 times. That's 72% of the time. But 28%, so it's not like it's 95%. So, the Phillies have the talent to do it. They've just got to do something today. Yeah,
hey, they're the most resilient. They are one of the most resilient teams. I mean, that's something getting
we should say
punched
that,
in the face. They've been punched in the face before, and then miraculously have bounced back and done some really good things. These are the same guys.
Right.
And in some cases, even better guys. So the resilience of this team is really strong. The steadiness of Topper is really strong. The fact that they don't have those grinder hitters in that lineup is a detriment in this situation, but hopefully they can figure out a way to how to grind enough at bats out to make and hit enough mistakes that they get today.
Guys, we will be back tomorrow morning to recap game 2. Maybe we'll be talking about something a lot different.
Hopefully.
I'll talk.
Smell you later, boys.
Smell you, Jim.
This is The Phillies Show. If you haven't already, please subscribe to The Phillies Show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel. If you like what we do, give us a review. Tell a friend. Catch Ruben, Jim, and me on Phillies Nation TV, presented by Valley Forge Tourism. New episodes air an hour before every Saturday Phillies game on NBC Sports Philadelphia. Replays air throughout the week and on PhilliesNation.com. Get more of Ruben's analysis during, before, and after Phillies games on NBC Sports Philadelphia, on the Sports Radio 94 WIP Morning Show and MLB Network. Read Jim at the All City Network at allphly.com. Find more of me at MLB.com, the Phillies Beat newsletter, and occasionally on MLB Network.